All right. She's in the house. My
Hey, good
favorite.
morning.
Good morning. So I'm just gonna introduce her because I'm gonna have to introduce her because I love her so much. So Dr. Pamela Williamson is not just one of the smartest women I know, she's also one of the kindest women I know. And she is, as of recently, a homemade pasta chef and gardener. Uh, we were laughing about it. I said, so how was your first $500 tomato? So Dr. Pamela Williamson is the CEO and president of WBEC-West, and she's going to tell you all about that. And her mission really is to help women business owners to understand the power of certification and then to provide training, information, education, and most importantly, connections to a corporate supply diversity specialist with a purpose of creating business and entering relationship and understanding what we need to do to get into business. So I've been a member of WBEC-West. I think it's going to be my 4th year now. And so once, within this conversation, I have no script, there's no slides, there's no nothing. We're just answering questions and just telling you what it's all about. I will tell you from my perspective that it is really critical to do a certification and be part of it, because there's a lot of opportunities you can't even get to. You can't even get in the room unless you have a certification. So Pam, may I please put the spotlight on you and have you take it from here and tell us, what is a certification? Why do I need it? And what's in it for me?
So much for you saying you're not going to put me on the spot. Lies, all lies, I say. So good morning, everyone. Like Beate said, my name is Pamela Williamson, and I have been with WBEC-West for almost 11 years now. So it's been quite a ride. When I started, I was just taking a little break from at that time, what I thought was my passion, which was running psychiatric urgent cares. So I took a little sabbatical, ended up taking this job, which I thought was just going to be like just something to tie me over, get insurance for my family, because my husband has his own business. And 11 years later, I am still here. So obviously I have found a new passion, which is really connecting women-owned businesses to opportunities, helping them grow, all through partly certification, because that's one key element of it. But as everybody knows, a certification is only as good as how you use it. And so it's all about you, your business, what makes you, what's your differentiator. And I'm sure all the things Beate has been talking with you about previously. When she reached out to me, we really wanted this to be a conversation. She felt that you guys had a lot of questions about certification. So instead of me doing my pre-script, my typical workshop that I typically do, I wanted to just open it up for any specific questions that you had so we can make sure everything gets covered.
Sounds good by me. So I'm fine. So if you guys want to just jump in, unmute yourself and fire away and ask your questions, go ahead. This is it. You're at the source.
Hi, I'd like to ask a question if I could.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Dr. Maria Church. Nice to meet you, Dr. Pamela. I have a certification with the Minority Diversity Council. And I remember going through that process, and it was quite cumbersome with the paperwork. And I don't do paperwork very well. So I kind of avoid that when possible. I usually don't apply to RFPs and things like that. I build my business really based on relationships. But of course, I know how valuable the WBEC certification can be. Can you speak to what the process is and how intense it may be, and any advice that you have in completing the certification?
Sure. So what I would say, if you were already NMSDC certified, you've already gone through the process. And so I'm sure you've kept all of that paperwork and kept it organized.
Yes,
and
it was painful.
We asked for quite a bit of the same information.
Okay.
And I'm not sure when you went through it if their process was electronic or not. So the WBEC-West process is electronic. So the first thing I encourage anyone to do is on the WBEC website, there is a what is it called? A clicky thing that's
The drop down?
Yes, that's it. Where it says, get certified. And in that, it will walk you through the process. It will also walk you through it by the type of business structure you have. So if you're an LLC or a sole prop, it specifies what documentation we require. Once you collect all your documentation, and I always tell people to collect the documentation first. I also used to be an auditor in a very past life. And one of the things I tell people is that those documents and the way that they have it designed is such a great audit tool to make sure that you truly own and operate your business 51%. So even if you have no intention of being certified, I would encourage people to pull down the certification guidelines and the check sheet and go through your business structure. Because I cannot tell you how many, especially when I first started, we've put in so many training opportunities for women-owned businesses since I've been here. But when I first started, we were denying about 23% of the people who applied. And it wasn't because they didn't know their business. It truly was because there was something in their operating agreement that was causing them not to control their business. And so when I used to go out to do certifications, in a very, very, very other life, I used to do a lot of work with HUD as a consultant. And there was this woman that I was just the queen of HUD. And so she had a business. And when her site visit came up, I was like, I want to do it because I want to meet her. I've been wanting to meet her for years. So I did her site visit and she didn't meet the qualifications. So she had 51% of the shares. She didn't have 51% of the voting shares. And so by the time I walked through everything, when she was going through her denial process, the conversation started out with her yelling at me because there was no way she did not own this business. By the time we ended our conversation, she was thanking me. She had no clue that her board could remove her. So I always say, even if you have no intention, the tools are there. It's a free tool. Look at it, evaluate your business structure, just to make sure you truly do own it.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. And next we have a question from Jennifer. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm in Wisconsin, so I know I'm not in the West District. So I'm WBE certified as of this year, which really, again, really a good process to go through because getting all those ducks in a row with my paperwork meant that when I filed for the PPP and the EIDL, I had everything ready to go. So that exercise is good in itself, and I wanted to validate that. But now I feel like with some of my business, I need to, good one, good hand clappers. I needed to look at doing the WOSB. I guess that is a different credentialing. And do you have any suggestions or speak to why we shouldn't? Because that feels like it's a hugely more arduous process.
Well, first, congratulations on being certified. And WBE South is amazing. So good location that you're in. As you know, WeBank does the WOSB process. So you need to do it when you go through recertification. So when you go, and I think there is a way that you can do it before you get recertified. You just have to connect with your RPO and let them know you want to go through the process. If you go through it with WeBank, they already have 90% of your documentation already. There's only about 3 or 4 other pieces of documentation they'll need to collect from you. So reach out to, who is that? That used to be Nancy. Is it Nancy Allen?
That may be, okay.
Reach out and she'll walk you through what you need to get to resubmit, because there's only a couple of other pieces of documentation that you need to submit. And the reason why you should get WOSB certified, because that was the second part of your question, is WOSB is for government contracts. And there are so many government contracts out there that are sole sourced, which means that they are being set aside for women-owned businesses. And so there is the fact that we have so many women who are applying for WOSB and really taking the time to understand government contracting. There's just so many missed opportunities that we need to get our women to apply for.
Yeah, and I can speak to that, Jennifer. So on the application with WBEC, and I'm pretty sure that the application process will be very similar across WBEC and WBEC and nationally, is you literally just click a button and it says, do you also want to get your WASP certification? And then the certificate comes at the same time. I know that there's some of the process has now just been changed in the database. So I've been notified that there was an additional step I had to do, but all I really had to go is go on that website where it says from the government, you have to go and create this, you create your, go ahead.
Your SAMS, you have to go into SAMS and register and create your profile there. But it's so easy if you go through us. And if you're already certified, you really should take advantage of that benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really absolutely nothing. And the minute you say you're WBEC certified, that's it. They don't really ask for much more in the certification. So that was that, you know. Okay. So Danny, you have a question about LGBTQ. Go ahead, please.
Thanks for pulling this together. Is it Beate or Beate?
It's Beate.
Beate. Thanks for pulling this together, Beate.
No problem, Danny.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Williamson. My question is, so I'm a cisgendered gay male here. Want to make sure I'm in the right room. I'm looking at becoming LGBTQ business certified. Is there any difference in terms of advice or thoughts that you have around that process and the return on investment?
You know what is great is that LBGT worked with WBEC to create their process.
Oh.
So it is very similar. And so what I would say is they also should have a list of the documents that are required. The steps are very similar. There's about 3 things that are different because they do require a few letters for verification purposes. Okay, but besides that, it is very similar and it is definitely worth getting.
Okay, excellent. All right, great. And I think I start with a chamber or a, right? That's where I would first go, right? Find an LGBTQ business entity.
So you can go through the chamber and they have everything set for you to get certified.
Oh, and I have another question, actually. Thank you. So I'm in California right now in the Bay Area. Lots of opportunities here. I plan on moving back home, which is in upstate New York, a bit more rural. Is there something that all of us need to know if we're relocating going across state lines, that kind of thing? Does certification stay with?
Certification is nationwide, so it will stay with you, but you will have to just let them know that you are relocating so that they can connect you with the appropriate chamber in your territory that you're moving.
Right on. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, excellent. Wonderful. And we had Jackie next, please.
Hi, Beate. Thank you for putting this together. And good morning, Dr. Pamela. So my name is Jackie Chelette. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm in another region. And I have a software training company. My question is, with COVID-19, is WBEC still doing physical on-site visits or are they doing online? And if they're doing online, how does that work?
So you were located in Roz Lewis's territory, so I hope you have had an opportunity to meet her. If you have not, she is also amazing.
Okay.
Right now, the WBEC network is doing all of our site visits online. So we're doing them virtually through Zoom. And so what will happen is your file, once you submit all your documentation and all your documentation has been reviewed by the office staff, your file then is reviewed by a certification committee. When they go through and review your file, that certification committee will design specific questions outside of the standard questions that are asked. And then those are the questions that will be asked in your site visit. Because of COVID, originally, everybody thought that this was going to be not as long as it has been for us. So originally the thought was that once you got your site visit done online, we would end up turning around and doing an in-person one within the next few months. But now, because we are now, who knows, we don't have a date for when we'll go in and do in-person site visits again. So right now, It's only the virtual one that you have to go through. And then, as you guys know, we go back and we will do your recertification. Your paperwork is updated yearly, but then we do site inspections every 2 to 3 years, or whenever an issue arises that we're notified about.
Thank you. Lisa, you go next, please.
Hi, thank you. Yes, so it's a little bit similar to a prior question, but I am already SWAM certified and I'm in Virginia. I'm micro certified and I'm also self-certified in women-owned small business, which originally you could self-certify, and now in October that ended. So eventually to reclaim that, I'll have to do the paperwork. So I'm wondering how the process for the certifications for those things is similar to or different from the WBEC. That's part one of the question. Then I have a part two.
Okay, so part one is we will look at a lot of the same documentation. We are really looking to make sure you are 51% owned, operated, and governed by a woman or women. So
Yeah,
that's
I'm a sole proprietor, so
yeah. So that's the one thing that we really look at. We also do probably a little bit deeper dive into the financials, and we do that just to make sure that the money that was utilized to start the business, and it's very different when you're a sole proprietor than if you have like 3 or 4 people and investors. So we do that just to make sure that there's not an infusion of capital, which could be considered. We're really looking to make sure that you are not a front entity at the end of the day is what we're looking for.
right.
And so I think the difference between us and others is that, one, we are primarily WBEC certification was primarily designed for private entities. So like the Disneys, the Chevrons, the Nestle's, companies like that. So we're looking on behalf of them for their best interest.
Right, that makes sense. So the second part is, so a lot of the reason why I got these certifications several years ago was to move from doing my sole practice into doing corporate training and coaching. And then I knew that there was a lot of government contracts that were, available and lucrative for women-owned businesses. But I found that just looking at some of the RFPs for doing government kind of contracts is just so confusing and cumbersome and just, I'm like, not even really worth it. Plus what I've been learning in Velocity is to not do RFPs, not do proposals, to do co-creative things. So how would WBEC, do you feel like WBEC certification would provide me opportunities that for someone like me, small, just starting out, would really be able to take advantage of and not, get cumbersome with trying to go after things that are just going to be too much work just to even try to get?
Great question. So there's 2 things. I'm going to backpedal a little bit and talk about government contracting just for a moment. So yes, I do. Government contracting can be very arduous. Lots of detail, lots of coordination needs to go into it. But I do think that it's more than worth it to go after some of them, especially if you can. I am so sorry, my dogs, same people walk by my house every day. Dogs bark no matter what. So I do think within WBEC, there's a couple of things. One, they have some amazing government contract trainings. 2, we have lots of women who are already in government contracting that are always looking to subcontract with people. And they're also looking to collaborate with people. So if you can pull together or work with 3 or 4 or 2 other women to go after a government contract, then it might be worth it for you. And I think building those within WBEC, the opportunity to build those type of relationships, I think are extremely valuable. And I think on the non-government side, it's the same thing also. Being able to build relationships, do business with other women, both from a partnership standpoint, but also is a subcontractor is important. So I've seen people within this network build their business just off of B2B within WBEC.
Yes, that's true.
So that's my 3 comments.
And
I think.
go ahead,
Oh, go
Pamela.
ahead. Yeah, okay. No, go ahead.
I want to jump in on that a little bit because the RFPs, let me just tell you, the RFPs are like a major pain in the butt. Like you look at this thing and you go, what? And you can see that they go copy and paste from previous RFPs. There's contradictory information in there and it makes your head explode. So what I have learned, you know, and I've done a couple RFPs. I've yet to be awarded one. And I found that you want to find someone who does this because what they're looking for in the beginning is really your liquidity, your ability to perform more than anything. So you have to show that you have like a bench, you know, which is what we do in Velocity anyway, that we have these like 10, 15 people that can come in and that goes on your, you know, there usually is a sheet, who are the people that are performing on the contract, especially from the consultants. So you can say, you know, we have the Colby certified, we have the Myers-Briggs certified, we have the so-and-so, we have the so-and-so. So, you know, we have the doctor, we have the whatever. So it looks like you got a really solid bench so you can actually perform. Getting an RFP, if it's just you, your chances are very slim. That's what I learned, no matter how small the contract or how big the contract is. And then once you have it set up, once you've tortured yourself, and that's how I feel, right? Tortured yourself through that first set of RFP with someone who gets these contracts regularly, you understand what they're asking for. And it's the opposite of what we learn in Velocity. They want to know everything up front. They don't need to know exactly what you teach. They just need sort of the description of what it is you're planning on doing with an outcome. That's it. They don't need to know how you exactly teaching, but they need to know everything ahead of time. And when you look at these RFPs, what I have seen lately is that they are trying to make their life very easy. So when they say education or training, they go, oh, and it's a Microsoft suite training, and it's a Excel training, and it's a communications training, and an emotional intelligence training, and it's a leadership training. So, you know, there's so many trainings in there, which is why you have to utilize the bench. So the way for us in Velocity would be to go to say, who here in Velocity has done government contracts or a supply diversity contract and has a template that will go in as the prime, who has actually gotten these contracts. And then I will do all the work, but you have to help me and then build it out that way. So that's how I found is the only way it works. And then you have the template and then it's much easier. Okay.
Right. We just applied for we just did an RFP on Friday, which we finished at like 2:30 in the morning. And I got to tell you, you're absolutely right. We ended up partnering with 9 other entities. We're coming in as the prime, but we would not be able to have even applied without these 9 other community partners that we joined forces with. And I think one of the benefits of being in any group, you mentioned you were certified through quite a few entities, I think is, you know, getting engaged, getting to know the people, and definitely when those type of large RFPs come out, that you, even if you can only do 20% or 10% of it, share it with that group, because you'll be surprised at how many people will respond and want to go in with you. Within WBEC, we did form industry groups so that people would be able to connect with each other when opportunities come out, so that they could work together. And I think that's one of the things I'm seeing more this year than I've seen in past years, is people really forming these strategic alliances and partnerships to go after larger contracts. I think within private industries, we're seeing a lot of that too. And what Beate said about you have to have a lead, you know, some of the things that corporations say very clearly is, we like when you guys join forces to go after something, but we need to know who we need to reach out to, who's going to actually be, where does the buck stop, and who owns it. And I think in the beginning, when people were starting to form these type of collaborative relationships, they didn't have those type of conversations at the beginning. So a lot of them failed along the way. But I think as we've learned and we've been sharing more information about it, and corporations are seeing that it's a wise thing to do, that they're actually holding conversations ahead of time. They love it when a group comes together and it's all different. So it's LGBTQ, veterans, women owned. If you could form a collaborative like that around your specialty and apply for RFPs, once you get one good RFP, it truly is. You are just cutting and pasting and customizing.
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Pamela. And to that point, I think in the beginning, when you first go out, you're like, you look at other people and you go like, oh my God, they're in direct competition of me. And then you go through it, and then you talk to someone like AT&T, and they tell you straight out, we don't pay anybody unless earlier than, what is it? It's 90 days, right? So they don't even give you an advance. So they pay you in 90 days. That's it. There's no question. So you have to be able to be liquid for 90 days on some of these contracts, right? And
well, that's being kind, actually, because 90 days is quick, is really quick. And some corporations have some special arrangements if you are a certified diverse business. So for example, Caesars has a 30 to 45 day payment if you're certified. But then you have other companies that you need to be able to carry, 90 days is nice, but you need to be able to carry 4 to 5 months.
And so if you have your risk diversified through, other vendors as well, so then you don't carry the whole burden on your own. Because if you are going in a big contract and you tie up your time for an entire month or an entire 2 or 3 months, and then you don't get paid for another 4 or 5 months, that's a great way to get yourself out of business. So so these are just some of the things you also have to be really clear about. And I have now learned to, in Velocity, and Angelique really does this very well, you got to be clear what you bring to the table, that you're better at than anybody else, and double down on that. All right, Elise, you are next. You had a question.
All right, so I think we've been over some of my question, but my question is about opportunity. So I got my Oregon certification, and I actually failed my first WBEC certification because of an issue in my operating agreement about voting percentage. So hey, save yourself some money and time. Double check that one for sure. But when I'm in there looking at things, it looks like the easiest stuff to find is all about commodity suppliers and construction and whatnot. So and then when you look at the training things, it tends to be super like communication or help me. What are the best ways for us to connect with people who are looking for the things that we actually do? Like, what are the resources in there once you get in?
So, so first of all, are you talking about looking for another WBE, or are you talking about corporate?
I am actually interested in, I'm assuming I'm going to pass my certification, which is back going through this thing right now, because, my goodness, if I don't, I'll be so grumpy. But once we're all certified across the board, what are the best ways for us to find people and connect with other people looking for knowledge and consulting services?
Okay. So so every RPO is different. So let me start with that. So what I would say is, I'm going to tell you very general, because I don't want to say something that might not apply to where you're at. So what I would say, every RPO has a great class called Leveraging My Certification. So first of all, I would register for that class once you get certified. And that's going to walk you through how to connect with people, how to notify people that you're certified, how to get in and utilize the WBEC link. So we do have a software system called WBEC Link that allows you to go in, You can look up other WBEs. There's information about corporations in there. So those are the first two things I would do is one, take the I'm leveraging my certification, or it might be called I'm certified now what in your territory, but it's going to be called what are those two. And then two, take the WBEC link training. Three, get engaged. So every RPO has events. And what's great about the WBEC certification is you can go to an event in any territory. And so that's a great way to connect and get engaged with other WBEs. And it's also a great way to engage and connect with corporate members from each of the different RPOs. When you get into WBEC Link, you're able to look up the corporations and you're able to see what they buy. They'll have a little description and their contact information is in there. There is a strategy for connecting with corporations, which I am sure your RPO is going to walk you through how to do that. But there is a proven strategy for how to do that effectively.
And I would like to add to that. So as a part of that also is that a lot of these suppliers have their own supplier diversity registration website. So you thought this was a lot of work. You haven't seen anything yet. So some of them actually have come together and built like one site where once you know, like Disney and Sony, they're all like in the same system. I think what it's called, it's CVM.
They're in CVM.
Yeah, they're in CVM. And so you upload your information once and then you see everybody who's in the system. And then it's literally just a click where you have to certify it for each one of them. Yes, you know, the information I've entered is correct. And you have to do this every single year, right? So the first thing that somebody's going to say in supplier diversity is, are you registered in our database? And this is like one of the big issues for WBEs, right, Pamela, where we say, you make us do all the work. We're always registered. We know you're not really looking in this, right? Because we have yet
people.
Yeah. So it's you know, there's a lot of that. So I've learned there's a multi-pronged approach. You have to build the relationship in person. You have to register, and then you just have to stay on it. So if you think that that your certification is like a LinkedIn strategy, it's not. You got to pick 10 people, you got to pick 20 people, and then you got to go after them relentlessly. If you think you can go after any industry and anyone as a supply diversity department, you are going to run yourself thin. So pick who you really a good fit, and then just make that the target. Because once you got one under your belt, then because they all talk to each other, they all go to the same conferences, then they actually connect with each other. Like, you know, Disney, our niece is like, you know, great example. She knows all of her colleagues. When she's vetting you, you bet she's calling everybody else. She's known for that. She's like, have you worked with Beate? How is Beate doing? Does she perform? What do you think of her? Does she know what she's doing? I mean, she will not put her name on the line to recommend someone for Disney unless she's done all her vetting. So it's better to target a small group of people that is a natural fit, that's your ideal fit, your best client, and get that right, and then branch out. Pamela, is that what you've seen?
It is. So we say it's best to target 7 to 12 corporations that you feel like you can add value to. We encourage you to do your research. One of the best research tools is free. Most of them are publicly owned, so their annual reports are there. We encourage you to pull down their annual reports, review it. That annual report will tell you what they've spent money on in the past, what they are thinking about spending money in the future. And it will allow you to immerse yourself into their language so that when you talk with them, you're speaking their language. We also encourage you, once you identify those 7 to 12, to put Google alerts in your computer for those corporations. And the reason being is once you meet, let's say, an Arnie Slam at a conference, you'll always, the natural thing is, well, can I follow up with you? They'll say yes, but you have to know how to strategically follow up so that you're just not sending them your monthly newsletter or anything like that. So the reason why I like to set Google alerts, so I do this myself, is because when something comes up in the news about MGM, I'm able to reach out to Kenyatta Lewis and say, hey, I just saw this, and give her my insight or my thoughts about it. Sometimes I've sent corporations things that their supplier diversity program didn't even know about. And I think one of my favorite stories, which again, I typically don't tell one-off stories, but I love this story. One of my favorite stories is about a US Bank and Robin Billups. I don't know if you remember Robin Billups or not, Beate, but she was the vice president of supplier diversity for US Bank. And they had this huge project going on in the East Coast that she didn't even know about. One of the East Coast WBs reached out to her and said, hey, I just saw that you were having issues with your remodeling because something had happened within one of the stores. Just to let you know, I do this, this, and this is how I can solve this issue for you. And so Robin was blown away. She ended up calling, well, first of all, she ended up calling the bank because she didn't even know there was an issue going on. And so this individual ended up getting a contract. It wasn't a large contract, but it was still a contract to do some remodeling. Mm-hmm. And so the more that you know about that company, the better. You should really be an expert on whoever you are trying to go after for a contract.
Thank you. That is absolutely correct. And you know, in Velocity, in the group that we're in, Pamela, Angelique really hammers it home better than anybody else. I mean, if you dare to make a phone call without knowing what's going on with that company, I think she's deducting points from us or something like that. Leslie, you come next.
Thank you so much. Beate, it's wonderful to know how to say your name, and I have a lot of gratitude for you setting up this call for us. So thank you. And thank you to Dr. Williams for your time. I'm sure you're very busy. My question is, I'm new to this and I might've missed it in the first couple minutes because I was 8 minutes late joining. But I mean, do you just start with the certification? I'm in the Carolinas, so I apologize, whoever that was that's in Atlanta, but I'm part of Roz Lewis's territory, I think, from what I'm understanding. Do I reach out directly? Like, how do we kind of get started here, learn what we need to know, get connected so that we can get the resources and the help we need to get through these certification processes and learn what we need to know to become successful?
So your first step is to go to the WBEC website, which is just wbec.org. And then they have a series of articles, information, and they also have the steps to certification. Okay, I always encourage people to pull the WBEC standard and procedures, and it kind of walks you through what we look for, because that's the first thing, right? You want to look at your documents with certification goggles on. So I always say, start with the standards and procedures. Then there's also a required documentation form. Review that, then go back and review the standards and procedures again, and then start collecting your documents. I always, I encourage people to collect all their documents before they even start the process of certification, because that allows you to kind of look, make sure that you're in alignment with the WBEC standards, really pay attention to your, I'm going to get some money, my palm is itching. Really pay attention to your operating agreement, because for us, we're looking at 51% owned, operated, and controlled. That is what we're looking for. In your financials, we're going to make sure that if you started your business and you started it with, let's say, $80,000, we're going to ask you where the $80,000 came from. You always want to make sure that you're not reliant on another business, because again, if you, let's say you have, I was trying to think of a great example and I can't think of one, but, okay. Let's say you own a print shop, you have a print shop, but you have no equipment. All your equipment is your girlfriends or your ex-boyfriends or your dad's, and you're using his equipment. That means that you were reliant on another entity, and we wouldn't certify you.
Yep,
So
and
just make sure all those nuances are, you know, taken care of, or you've looked at them and you have justification for them. Another thing that I would say is look at your stock. So if you have a company where you issued stock, make sure that you own 51% or women own 51% of the voting stock.
okay.
Another issue that comes up a lot, which is surprising, is highest office comes up a lot. You know, we do require the female owner to hold the highest office. So we just recently had a appeals where everyone was managing member. And so when I was on the appeals call, one of the questions I asked was, okay, because there were 3 women and 1 male. And so one of the questions was, so how do you make a decision? Like, how do you decide what to do when it could be 2 and 2? And they said, oh, well, we have an outside arbitrator come in. And I'm like, then you don't control that business.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, no, that's really helpful. So it sounds like I'm hearing you say, go for the certification, get that all rocking and rolling, and then come back in and leverage the certification and all the resources that come with it and really start to get ingrained at that point.
Yep, that is the first start, is getting certified, and not like looking at all those things that, because I think when we deny people, for the most part, I have the pleasure of talking to every single denial. And I have very rarely do I walk away saying, oh my gosh, they were trying to scam the system. I mean, that does happen, but very rarely. Typically, it is women-owned businesses who started their business with the right intention and just got so caught up in the day-to-day that they didn't pay attention to how their business was really being controlled. And they didn't know that their board could vote them out, or that they couldn't make a decision without getting the approval of these 3 or 2 other people. And so just really looking at it from that perspective, I think, is your first step. Then once you get certified, I say immerse yourself, go to the events, set up a meeting with your RPO leader to talk with her about, you know, I'm in this industry, how do I do this? Make sure that they know you, because I can tell you, I get emails from corporations looking for specific suppliers. And there are people that I just know because they've connected with me or I've talked with them. And we always will do a full source. We always will do a full search in the system when a corporation requests something. But if they pick up the phone and they're just like, Pamela, off the top of your head, it's like, there are just people who have been engaged that I just know that are the first ones that come to mind.
Yeah, that's really appreciated. Thank you for that. That helps me get started on the journey. I appreciate your time.
And I would like just to add to that. So what happens is when you look at the amount of paperwork you need, you know, it's, are you paying your taxes in the city you're operating in? Have you filed your tax returns? Have you filed your corporate tax returns, your personal tax returns? What's your lease agreement? What's your this agreement? What's your this agreement? And did you do your corporate minutes? And did you do your shareholder meeting? And you go through all of these things, and then you want to just pull your hair out and you go like, why do they need to know all of that? But what it does, it forces you to sit down and say, okay, if I take this seriously as a business and I'm a really business owner and I want to do business with a Chevron or with an AT&T or with a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 50 corporation, you think you just can wing it? You don't even know what your corporate structure is or what was discussed in your latest shareholder meeting. You know, you got to treat it like a business so it functions like a business. And that's the part of the training, I think, on how it's been designed, Pamela, that it forces you to look at this and say, am I even qualified as a business owner to talk about the things? Because when you go and get a huge contract, what if they ask you to get bonded? What if they ask to see your financials? What if they ask to see your tax return to make sure you got the cash flow? What if they want a cash flow analysis and you have no idea what that is? Or you have never even put any of these documents together, you're not going to get the job. You did all this work to get to the door and then you can't do it. So this is really, I think, part of the training where you say, well, what kind of business owner am I going to be? And it just makes you better. But believe me, there's a lot of size and there might be a couple of words that you say to yourself along the lines when you're caught in all the paperwork. Why do they even need this? But at the end of the day, it prepares you for what corporations want, and believe me, they will ask for this. I've seen RFPs where it clearly says we require financials, right? So you have to be prepared for that. All right, Bina, you go next.
All right. Thank you so much, Beate. I really appreciate you organizing this. I've learned so much in this short amount of time. And Dr. Pamela, thank you so much for your time today. I did have a couple questions. One was, and I think Beate answered it. It's the time for certification. It takes about, you said, from 3 to 6 months for first time certification. Is that right?
So it can take up to, so our goal always is 90 to 120 days. So one of the reasons why I say have all your paperwork in order before you even submit, because what makes the time longer is the going back and forth requesting additional documents and clarifications. So if you put the time in the front end to make sure you have everything, the processing time is less.
Okay. And that includes the interview and everything else that has to go. Okay. All right. That's so right now it's booking out into 2021 sometime to get certification. Okay.
You know what? It depends on your RPO, how quickly they're flipping things. That sounds horrible. How quickly they are going through. So you know what? There are sometimes that we are rock stars and we do things in 45 days, but really we're not the rock stars. It's the people who are turning in their paperwork. And that is because they put everything, they had everything. So it's a quick review time to get it to committee. Okay. So it truly is, it's like anything else. The more we have to call and ask questions, the longer the process takes.
Absolutely. And just wanted to check with everybody. I said to Pamela that I will make this a Q&A available to her as a video to use if she chooses to distribute that. So may I just have a verbal confirmation from all of you that you are okay with that? Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Because that way I can give it to Pamela, and if somebody asks or wants to know questions, they can put it on their own YouTube channel and distribute the video, and it'll, because the format of just regular people asking regular questions might just be really helpful for everybody. So if you have any other questions, please.
Yeah, Beate, I had one other question if I can answer. Yeah, so I know one of the big things that I was interested in with WBEC is the national conference. Can you explain what's going on now, given COVID, and how that's working? Because that's a good opportunity to connect with other women business owners as well, and potential leads.
Yes, I love the national conference. And so this year it was postponed, but what WBEC did is they've kind of pieced it out. So they're doing a lot of pieces verbally. They also have done these amazing executive leadership courses. And so there's just one going on right now from the book Traction. They're going to be doing some other ones coming out. And so that's one of the ways that they've kind of replaced the national conference is all of those workshops that used to occur, they've been doing them virtually. And so the events that WBEC is doing is listed on the WBEC website. Just in case people don't know, we are doing a Unity Week, which is pretty exciting. WBEC has partnered with the Hispanic Chamber, LGBTQ, the Minority Council, and we're holding a virtual conference. And that kicks off, I want to say, in November. So if you haven't heard of it, please go onto the WBEC website and check it out. Also, just don't rely on the WBEC National Conference. So every one of the 13 RPOs within the WBEC network, they all have regional conferences, which is a great way for you to, they're going to be smaller in scope, which I think is nicer because it's a great way for you to have a more personal connection with the corporation. Because instead of 4,000 people, there's possibly like 500 or 400 people. And every RPO is having a virtual conference this year. So I definitely check that out. But also remember that once you're certified across the whole United States. So any event that an RPO is moving forward, you're able to participate in. And so if you think about it, I think last year the RPOs did something like almost 700 events between the 14 or 13 of us. It was 14, now there's 13, one combined. But so there's a lot of opportunity. And so if you're thinking, if you want to do business with a specific corporation, that's another thing that I'd really encourage you to do is once you get certified, go onto the different RPOs websites. It lists out who their corporate members are, it lists out their events. So it could be that you want to be engaged in maybe 3 or 4 RPOs. So I know within my RPO, I have quite a bit of people who do automotive work. So they're engaged with us, but they're also engaged with the RPO in Michigan.
Thank you so much.
We have 2 more questions, Rosalind and then Amy, and that is it. And then we are finished for today.
Yes. So my question, most of it was already answered before, but one piece of it. So if you're doing a collaboration, like locally, I'm certified with like the school board and a couple municipalities, and I partner with businesses who do not want to go through the certification process, but are willing to come on board for contracts or events that I put on. How does that work with WBEC? Are we when I'm looking at these national certifications, so the people I'm putting on the RFPs or I'm partnering with also have the same certifications, or is that not a factor?
It's not a factor because you're going to partner with whoever you feel best meets the needs of that RFP that you're going after. And so what would matter, because so for corporations, they want to count your spend, right? So what that would mean for a corporation is that they're going to want you to be the prime so that they are physically giving that money to you so that they can count the spend.
Thank you.
All right. And final question goes to Amy.
Hi. Thank you, Beate, for setting this up.
My pleasure.
Hopefully this is just a quick one, but as a solopreneur who I feel like I'm relaunching my business and trying to get my ducks in a row, is there a sort of a bar that I should look at? I know you said there are these, look at the standards and procedures, but is there sort of a minimum that I should have in mind before even getting started? Like incorporating or LLC or any kind of thing like that?
No, there's not. That's I think the greatest thing about WBEC is that there is no minimum whatsoever. And what I think is amazing, not only about WBEC, but also the corporations that we work with, is that they are so interested in finding innovation. And so if you are a small sole prop and you just have this amazing idea that's going to help improve, an existing product or service, or you have a new product or service, corporations are interested in hearing about it. And so there is no minimum. It's just about you showing up and being authentic and having something that's just truly phenomenal and that meets a need.
And I have a story for that, and then I'll leave you all with that. So I'm at the national conference. I am in these matchmaking roundtables, and this woman comes and she's got like a little bottle with like little plastic balls in it, right? And she goes like, and I said, what is that? And she does her pitch, and what she does is she recycles bumpers, like old plastic bumpers, and and she's trying to do business with recycled plastic. And I'm sitting there, I'm going like, oh my gosh, what a waste of time. I'm being all judgmental. And then at the gala, I'm sitting next to a woman from Johnson & Johnson. And I said, so how's your conference going? And she says to me, I came here for one and one reason only, and I feel I have failed. I'm looking for recycled plastic for our bottles. Ding, 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 ding. I said, oh my God. I said, I said, you will love me more than you even know, because I had the card in my pocket because it was so weird and so unusual that I said, you got to give me a card because you never know. 3 hours later, I connected her with Johnson & Johnson. So awesome. You just never know. So to the point of Pamela is when you take the judgment out, you show up as yourself and you know what you're doing and what you're looking for, these things actually do happen. And I mean, I didn't follow up, so I don't know if they actually did business together, but just being able to make that connection was, you know, I mean, how does this not make you feel really good? So anyways, go ahead.
Before you close, I just want to say one thing, because you said something that is just so fantastic to me that I just want to make sure everybody heard. One of the things that I love about this network, and that just gives me chill bumps, is the fact that WBEs will connect corporations to other WBEs. And I think that is just that. I grew up in business and really not, so here's a judgment for you, in really an all male industry. And I have just been, it wasn't usual for my counterparts or my competition to elevate me in any way, right? So when I got to this network, I was like blown away by the fact that I would see WBEs who would say, you know what, I don't do that, but I know someone who does. And really want to connect that person to the other person for them to do business. And I have seen WBEs who have formed alliances where there's like 10 to 20 and they know each other's business inside and out. And they hit that trade show floor and they divide and conquer that floor. And you will hear them say, oh, but you know, Lisa Michelle does that. Here's their card. Because they've developed a strategy of working together, because there's no way you can hit 4,000 trade show booths or even 2,000. But so that is the one thing there is, you know, we have this thing called WBE to WBE strong, and it's amazing. It works. I don't know how or why or where the chemistry or the magic comes from, but within the network, it's there. So I hope each of you, you know, whatever RPO you are connected with or want to be connected with, that you truly take the plunge and engage. You will see amazing things happen.
Thank you so much. So I'd like you just to all unmute yourself and please join me in thanking Pamela for an excellent session.
Thank you,
Thank you so much, Pamela.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for listening to me, my dogs, the doorbell ring. You know, I appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.